What's up, everybody? You've tuned in to Just Drawz, the podcast that explores hot topics and various experiences among same-gender loving Black men. In each episode, we offer raw, vulnerable, and stripped-down perspectives to give voice to our frequently overlooked population. Here, we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep, peeling back the layers of our experiences as well as heteronormative stereotypes. Let's get into this week's episode.
What's up, family? Welcome to the Just Drawz podcast, where we keep it vulnerable,
Raw, stripped down,
and authentically just us. I am Jeff.
And I'm your boy Darius, aka DMC.
So grab a drink,
Or keep your hands on the wheel.
readjust your support, and
let's get into it.
All right. So tonight we're coming from the American Express Centurion Lounge.
I have an American Express.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, that's about all I can say. I have one.
I'm not that fancy. I don't have.
I've never been
Amex.
to the lounge though. You know.
Oh, you gotta have like one of those special cars, I think, to get into the lounge.
Yeah, it's clearly that I don't have. Yeah,
One of those Centurion or the black card or platinum like business, I think.
yeah. I used to watch Centurions, the cartoon, years ago.
I remember that.
Does that count?
No, it's not going to get us into the lounge, the
Yeah.
official lounge, but that's where we're coming from tonight anyway.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, Darius, tell us what's happening on tonight's episode.
All right. So tonight, the topic is something that is near and dear to the LGBT community, and that's travel, because the gays love a trip. Okay.
Yes, they do.
So, we've seen often on Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, everywhere else where, people are taking these trips. They're going to these exotic locations. They're on beaches. They're in Speedos. They're hanging out with people. They're doing excursions, all of this stuff. And Jeff and I both like to travel. Now, Jeff more so than me because I don't get a chance to get out as much. But Jeff definitely loves to travel, but I do too.
I like a little trip.
Yeah, he loves a trip. Don't let him fool you. He loves a damn trip. And so tonight it was like, okay, let's come up with a topic, or let's think or do a topic that is going to, really kind of talk about travel and the travel industry and kind of where it's going and some things that we can look forward to if we're planning trips with a group of people, with a special someone, or solo. So tonight we have someone who is in the travel industry. We are so gracious to have him here with us tonight, Mr. Steve Johnson. So everybody welcome him to Just Drawz.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
So Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, I'm a dad of two beautiful boys, and so that's my main job. But nevertheless, I've been in travel for the last probably 35 years.
Okay.
Right now, I'm marketing manager with the Tourism Authority of Thailand. So that means that my job here in the United States is to promote Thailand to anyone who wants to come and visit and experience what a magical kingdom that it is. Before that, I worked for the island of Curacao, and before that, my home country of Dominica, both in the Caribbean. So my experience with travel and travel to many, many places in the world, and just being in the travel industry, I think that it's an honor and privilege to be able to share with both of you and your viewing audience or your listening audience some tips and insights as to how to navigate the world as the special people that we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. And international travel is definitely something that I want to get more into. I've done a lot of domestic travel, but I haven't done a lot of international travel. I've been to a couple of spots. I have some familial roots in Barbados. So I've been to Barbados with family, and I also have been to Jamaica. But that's about as far as I've gone. There's a couple of other places that I really want to go. So this is really kind of apropos, and I definitely will be probably taking some mental notes and some notes on some of the things that you're saying tonight. So I want to ask you what you do in the travel industry. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but how did you get started doing that?
Um, well, I always pursued a career in travel. My first
Mm-hmm.
degree in hospitality and tourism, and my second degree in tourism marketing. And I knew I had a vision of what I wanted to do. I didn't necessarily want to work on necessarily the sale of travel, but I wanted to work in a government agency that dealt with um, the proper development of tourism in any destination. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be part of that cycle. And so that's the career path I chose. Fortunately for me, I come from a small country. Um, Long story short, I ended up in the tourism entity responsible for the promotion of the country. And I made my way up. From there, they saw in me potential and sent me on a full scholarship to the UK to pursue a degree or a master's degree in tourism marketing. Went back, and then they sent me to good old New York City to open their
Okay.
first tourist office and to make a name for our country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was able to achieve for the 11 years that I did it. And, you know, the story just continues. I moved on to Curacao, which is another country in the Caribbean. That country quite different in the sense that it kind of falls along the lines of Europe, the
Okay.
Netherlands. And so it's very free and open there. So what I wasn't able to do with Dominica, I definitely was able to do with Curacao. And I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, the LGBTQ plus segment
Mm-hmm.
because I actively was able to promote to my community through my position with them. Then I moved to Thailand. It was kind of weird. It was right after the big recession in 2008 or 2007, and
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
when somebody said to me, Thailand's looking for a marketing manager, I was like, well, they're not going to take me. Nevertheless, long story short, 15 years later, here I am. So I've been with them for 15 years. And one of the mandates that I had when I first started was to grow the LGBTQ plus segment for Thailand and to make it formal. It wasn't easy because, Thailand has over 30 tourism offices all over the world. And
Mm-hmm.
our office here in New York was the first to formalize, an outreach to our community. And that was because of the vision of the director that I had at the time. And she allowed us to, just take it and run with it. And we're very proud of what we've been able to achieve. In fact, I think that many other offices followed suit. We faced resistance, even, believe it or not, we did.
Mm-hmm.
But we overcame, and we see it now being promoted in markets, not just in New York, but in many over the world. And so I think that what people don't realize is that I don't know if I'm answering your question too long-windedly, but specifically to Thailand, gay travel has always been something that Thailand has received.
Okay.
Gay people have been going to Thailand for over 50 years, I think, and that's because we have a saying which is "Mai Pen Rai," as you do, be as you are.
Okay.
But anyway, long story. I'll throw it back to you.
Okay. Jeff, I know he talked about Curacao, and you've been to Curacao before.
Yeah, I've been to Curacao. That was my first international destination. Not going to sugarcoat it. I did not like it.
Wow.
There were some okay things. And mind you, this was probably 15 years ago when I went. Um, yeah, we went to a couple places, went to a couple of beaches, saw the area where the cruise ships come in, and I was just like, oh, this is okay. But I kind of was like, all right, after like 2 days, felt like everything that could be seen, we saw. And I don't know if I just didn't know, where to go at that time. I was in a relationship and we didn't really go out that much.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a club or at that time, I wasn't aware of it. I know my current partner, he went to Curacao a little while ago and he kind of felt the same thing. He was like, clubs here close at like midnight. and that's kind of like it. So he didn't feel like it was that big of a scene there, but doesn't really see that he'll be going back himself. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I want to go to the ABC islands, so Aruba and Bonaire. I want to go to those just so that I've been to those, but Curacao, I'm like, oh, I'm good.
Well, Jeff, I think one of the things with any destination is that it requires research before you go, right? Because had you spoken to somebody who was really proficient with Curacao as a destination, they probably would have given you some insight that would have maybe swayed you somewhere else, right?
Hmm.
Because Curacao and many of the Caribbean destinations are not great destinations for any sort of major nightlife as it relates to our community. It just isn't. I think maybe the only destinations that are like that would maybe be Trinidad and maybe Barbados. But other than that, you're not going to, and maybe the USVIs. But other than that, you're not going to. So if you're going for that kind of nightlife, um, more than likely you're going to be disappointed. It's more of a relaxed type of
Yeah.
vacation, etc. And so key here is choosing the right destination for exactly what you want to do, and so that you can come back saying that you had a great old time. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And truth be told, the only reason why I went, it wasn't for vacation. It was because I was dating someone who was in school there, so it was more like a visit. But yeah, the beach was great. Eating, we went to a restaurant where the beach, the water crested right at the restaurant, so
Yeah,
that was awesome. Like those things were great, but everything that was kind of like afterwards was just kind of like, oh, okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, if it was a destination that I was planning on to do any type of travel, like with me, I have a whole little spreadsheet that I've got, what I want to do, different restaurants I want to maybe go to, so that I don't have to think about it once I get there. I already got a list. So yeah, when I travel or go somewhere like that, and I'm spending a lot of money now, yeah, I'm planning
Mhm.
what I want to do.
Well, if you haven't been to Thailand, should be on your list.
I would love to go to Thailand.
I want to go to Thailand. I want to go a bunch of places. So
Let's go. Let's go.
yeah,
We should
let's
go.
say that. Yeah, I want to go to a bunch of places. So you talked a little bit, Steve, about how LGBT supportive and friendly that Thailand is. Do you think that the travel industry as a whole can better support the LGBT community and specifically LGBTQ blacks?
Good question. I think that I saw the evolution with Thailand and where
Hmm.
we started and where we are today. When we first started, first of all, I told you there was resistance from within. So that's the public sector. There was always talk of we had to be sensitive because it is a Buddhist country, very similar to Christianity, and the same sentiment that we faced here or we faced in the Western part of the world. Um, but it's one of these destinations where it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if you come and you're respectful, and you come with genuinely wanting to know and experience, and go back with great memories. That's all that matters to the Thai people, you
Mm.
know. And so if you go as a gay person, as any member of our community, and you just are sensitive to culture, their culture, doing some research, as we spoke about earlier, in terms of do's and don'ts, you're good. You're good. And you can have an amazing time there. It caters to so many different segments and people. Um, it's great with Generation Z and X, Y even. You know, it really it caters to everyone. There's something for everyone there, and you just need to know where to go, depending on what you're looking for. I don't know if that answered your question or I went off.
No, definitely answered my question there. Um, you talked a little bit about, again, going back to, oh, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to
Oh,
say
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say, and that was the point that maybe I didn't stress on enough.
Hmm.
Traveling to Asia as a person of color, um, I think, and I will say and be honest that given the kind of job that I do, I think maybe I'm not necessarily the best person to speak on it because of the role that I play or I have when I'm there. Um, but I have spoken to some people of color that have gone there, and the reviews are mixed. I'll be totally honest. There's some people that don't have a good experience, and there's some that do. Um, I think there's bias everywhere that you go, but by and large, um, I've never felt different there. I've never felt or made to feel that I'm different. There may be some level of curiosity, but the color of my skin wasn't. It didn't seem to be an issue. I also work in an organization of over 1,000 people, and I'm the only person of color there.
Wow.
And I can honestly say that I have never felt, one or two simple instances, etc. But I have never felt looked down on or anything because of the color of my skin. But then again, I put that caveat out there that I do go in a certain capacity. But I think that regardless of color, if you go, there may be some that will stare because it's not usual. I know when I go to Thailand and especially to other parts of Southeast Asia, like to Myanmar or to Laos, to Cambodia, or even Vietnam, very rarely did I see people of color. It was in Thailand that I saw more people of color, and now it's great to see more and more. Over the years, I've seen so much more. The other day, I was there, and there were two families of color vacationing together, and I had to go up and speak to them, and just to tell them how glad I was to see that, because it wasn't
And
something that I
connect. Yeah,
saw
you got to.
50 years
Yeah.
ago, and just to say to them, great that you're here, and what made you come, and they were from New York, and family
Hmm.
from other parts, and they were having a great old time, and
Yeah.
there's so much to see and discover in Asia, and in particular Southeast Asia. It's just a matter of knowing, and making sure that you connect with the right people. And one of the things that I've done subtly, and I think it's becoming more aggressive now, is I've introduced people of color in the travel industry, particularly travel advisors, to Thailand. So one of the things that we do is to expose travel advisors, and maybe sometimes people refer to them as travel agents. We expose them to Thailand and what it has to offer. And I've been privileged to work with some very good professional people of color that are in the travel industry that sell travel, that I'm happy to refer if anybody wants to know, because they really have a good hold on Thailand. They sell Thailand actively right now to people of color. And they have gotten very good response and very good feedback. Small groups, a girls' trip or a boys' trip, they're going great. And I'm working right now with a company that sells to specifically to the LGBTQ plus market, to the full gamut of who we are, and is very successful. And he's mounting several trips to Thailand in the coming months and coming years. So it's becoming a destination that a lot more people of color are looking at. They're not intimidated by it anymore. I think there's a lot more coming out, a lot more exposure for the destination. People are a lot more free to be able to go and see and learn. And that's great because, 15 years ago, as I said, very rarely did I see anyone of color around me. And also, just to add, even within the sector of the tourism industry that I'm in, it kind of saddens me sometimes when I go to some of these conferences because I may be one of three or four in the room. So from that level, I think we have a long way to go because there still needs to be more of us at that level, even at the sales level of becoming a travel advisor. Whenever we do activities in the Atlanta area, for example, Jeff, I'm always encouraged because the predominantly in the room when we do functions there are people
Mm.
of color. And
Because gays love a trip.
I know. And it's just one of those things that it's great. And we are significant to the travel industry in the US, because just last year our net worth as a community in terms of travel was 65 billion, and that's
I heard that stat.
10% of the
Yeah.
US travel industry. So we are sizable, right?
Hmm.
And when you take into consideration how we spend, we outpace those our straight colleagues. So
Hmm.
we definitely make a mark, and when we go, we interact, we search out, people within our communities. We want to know, we want to support, and those are all possible in Thailand, and
Hmm.
I think that's a great testament to us as a community and what we've been able to do, in parts of the world, and to impact positively on peoples in other parts of the world. And I think that the sensitivity that we bring to travel is a plus. And I think that more and more as time progresses, the indicators are that, LGBTQ plus travel will continue to grow. And I just hope that we as a community, in terms of people of color, continue to grow with it and continue to know that the world is small, and we need to see as much as we can of it before
I
we
wanted you.
move
I
on.
wanted you to run that stat again that you presented early on in this, where you said that you were one of how many people that work in your area?
I'm one of over 1,000
Okay.
employees of the entire organization, but I'm the
Okay.
only person of color. Yeah,
That's okay. That's yeah. That's what I
yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
bring that drive that point home. And you actually talked about the presence of not only black, well, LGBTQ, but black as well in
yeah.
in that
And
industry
even
too. Yeah.
within
So.
within our within our organization, there is no scorn on anyone who's LGBTQ
Hmm.
or part of the community. That is just, they're embraced, they're celebrated. They dress as they wish. They identify as to who they want to be. And that does not diminish their role or their ability to move up within the organization at all.
Got you. Good.
Yeah.
I love how you said that when you saw the families from New York and you went up to spoke to them, because it seems like every time black people see other black people in some places we
You
don't
gotta
normally
say
see
something.
other
You
black
gotta say
people.
something. Yes, yeah. Talking about, hey, what's go? Who your
Hey, where
people?
you
Yeah,
from?
I
right.
know.
You have got
I
to. That
know.
is a
Right.
must.
It
Okay,
I
shows.
that's
love
in the
us.
handbook. That's in the black handbook. Everybody,
Yeah.
I love us.
for real. So, what are some of the top destinations that you've seen that are particularly welcoming to LGBT travelers, other than Thailand?
In Asia, for example, I think that side trips to Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos are definites, and we are well received there. In fact, I think there are laws in Vietnam that have allowed for unions, etc. So, their approach is quite liberal. So in Southeast Asia, places like Singapore as well, great destinations, Hong Kong. There's no issue there as well. Closer to home, or through Europe, Italy is a great destination. Greece is very popular among our community and growing, particularly among people of color. The Middle East is very popular, a destination as well. Now, it's kind of strange because their laws are very archaic. But nevertheless, when you go to places like Dubai, and even myself, when I honeymooned in Abu Dhabi, a lot of people, when I say that, their eyebrows went up, because
Right.
really, and to be honest, I never faced any sort of discrimination whatsoever. We stayed in the desert. It was one room with one bed. There was no whispering, whimpering, nothing. That we didn't experience that. So I think that there's a disconnect between the law and how people live, but nevertheless, until you go and you don't understand, right? And so
All
people
right.
who do that kind of research and only go because, well, their laws are okay, or their laws, or don't go because their laws are not okay. I think you're kind of losing out. You just have to understand the culture of where you're going, and then follow suit. And I think that us as people, we understand that. What we understand that we have to have empathy and to be respectful of other cultures. And so, if we go about our business doing that, I think that we can enjoy many places in the world, regardless of what their laws are. I used to have the kind of approach where I'm not going if they don't have, if they don't support. But I feel that that's counterproductive in the sense that sometimes you have to go to allow people who are there to see you, and to learn from you, and to at least get some income from you from your visit there. And so I that's my approach. I respect everybody's approach, but that's mine because I feel that there's more to gain from going than not going.
Yeah, I know. I've seen several people that have gone to Dubai that I know are not straight, or are, just can look at their social media and tell that they're not straight. Good for them. I don't want to go any place where I have to worry about any of that. I'd rather go somewhere where it's not a thing. And I totally understand, doing research and, making sure that things are just so. But I'm perfectly fine with not knowing and not going and not experiencing it,
Yeah,
just because of the nightmare stories I've heard other people have had. So good for you and those
yeah,
folks. But I'm going to stay where it's okay.
and I respect that. I totally do.
Steve, you talked
Yeah.
a little bit about doing research with these various places that you want to go and doing the research. So, what tools do you recommend that people utilize in order to make sure that they're safe and that they feel inclusive in these different destinations?
I think the first thing is feedback through word of mouth. If you know anyone or have friends that have been, or you're part of any chat groups or anything, that you could put those questions out there so that people could give honest feedback. I think that's a good way to start, and to also do some research online to see what are the laws applicable, do's and don'ts, and then also to do some research as to whether or not that destination has a dedicated website geared towards us. That's a good place to start because, for example, Thailand does have that, and it'll give you very valuable insights and information that you need in planning your trip, and how to go about it. Incidentally, as of January this year, marriage equality became law in Thailand, and so in Thailand now we're now able to marry as we wish. So that's a huge accolade for Thailand, and it's a feather in their cap, right? Because 3 years ago, 5 years ago, when we first started 10 years ago, we never imagined that that was going to happen, and there it is now. So study the laws of the country that you are thinking of going to, and like Jeff said, if the decision is I don't feel that I would be comfortable or I could be myself, and then there you have it. You can make an informed decision. But I think that just knowledge is power. The more knowledge that you can get, the better off you are in making your decisions. But I think the most powerful for me is always word of mouth, through people, friends, etc., that can give you firsthand testimony of what their experience has been like.
Yeah, I was doing some research on, a couple of years ago, um, once shortly after the pandemic, and flights were a little bit cheaper at this one period. And I know that there was
Coronacations.
like a couple of there was a travel index for gays that basically like listed different countries, basically saying, hey, this is a green country. It scores like 98 or something as far as like safe travel. And then it goes all the way down to like a 0 or 1 to a place where, people would feel like, hey, this probably isn't the safest gay place to go to. But I mean, you can still go, but
Yeah.
know that this is what you'll experience or what the laws are here. These are your do's and your don'ts. And I think that that was a good guide for me to, just kind of like glance over to be like, hey, yeah, I'm probably not gonna go to Saudi Arabia, but you know what? This country up here, like Iceland or Norway, it's looking pretty good.
Hmm.
Yeah, but another important source of information are influencers, right? And they're all over the internet, and there are many credible influencers of people of color that I've worked with that can give you a really strong account of their experience from a gay perspective in destinations that they've been to. Also, there is the International Gay Lesbian Travel Association, IGLTA, and their website is a good source of information too, because they provide indices of just how receptive certain places are in certain parts of the world. So doing that research as well is also something, and utilizing those resources is also something that people can do when they're planning for great destinations. I mean, Mexico, right across our border, is a great destination, and their laws are very, very liberal. You don't feel out of sorts going there. I mean, we flock to Tulum year in, year out.
Yeah. Hmm.
So those are destinations
PVR.
right there
Okay.
that have received and welcomed us for many, many years, even when their laws were not what they are today. I also think in many destinations, just like I was explaining with the Middle East, there's such a disconnect between the law and the book, and how people actually treat people when they're there, and that's why I think word of mouth is so important, because you get to really have firsthand account of just what it is to be there, especially in those destinations that may not be as inviting of us because of law.
You were talking about word of mouth being one of the best ways to really engage and understand and research uh, a place that someone may be interested in going to, or has planned a trip to. What are, since you've traveled, what are some of the questions that you get from people who are interested in coming to Thailand or going to any of the places that you've traveled to before? What are some of those common questions?
Uh, the obvious ones, are people welcoming of gay people.
Hmm.
That's the big question. If I want to go beyond Bangkok, for example, will I have a problem? Uh, that's another question. How will hotels view me or treat me when I say that I want one room? I'm not going to lie. Depending on where you are, maybe in the upcountry, if you're going really off the beaten path, maybe they'll ask, in certain parts, is it one room, two beds, or they'll ask just to be sure, but not with any sort of, but for the most part, travelers to Thailand are not going to feel or made to feel any different because of that, because that's just how it is. And I think that's great. And I think that for many destinations that promote to our community, that's really how it is, and that's how it should be.
Do you get questions about the apps?
Not really, because everybody just assumes that their apps are going to work, and they do work,
Hmm.
regardless of where you are. So I would say, if you're going, make sure you download like a VPN onto your cell phone or whatever you're using to go onto the apps, because in certain countries and even in Thailand, certain sites are blocked, right? So if you do have a VPN, that will take care of that, and you can source your apps regardless of where you go. Thailand is, for example, a destination that's very, very technologically advanced. So, whatever you do here, more than likely you can do it there.
Yeah, kind of like with what I was trying to get to was with. I know that Thailand has been very welcoming to Americans, but one of the things that has been taking off now has been the sex tourism aspect of
Mm-hmm.
travel. And I know Thailand has been a destination for sex tourism and passport bros for a very long time. Um, and what do you think about that aspect of the industry, not just in Thailand, but just travel anywhere? A lot of people go to Brazil or the Dominican Republic as a passport bro, straight and gay. Do you think that that's a good thing for travel, or is it just how things are?
I can't say whether it's a good thing or bad thing. I just know that it is a part of travel, regardless of whether you're gay, straight, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sex tourism has always been a thing, and I think it'll always continue to be a thing for us in the gay community. Um, I think that some people do look for that in a destination when they're deciding where to go, and that's their right. Can they find it when they go to Thailand? Yes, they can. But it's a part of it. I don't label it as good or bad. I just note that it is a part of it,
It
and,
exists,
and
is the thing.
that's what it is.
I'm gonna kind of shift it off of the kind of formality of what we've been talking about here, and just kind of ask a personal question, I guess, to everybody here. What's been your most memorable travel experience as an LGBT person, or just in general, and what made it stand out to you? So, Steve, I'll start with you.
Oh my God. Um, I don't. I think that maybe what stands out most is that I have two very dear friends here in New York, um, and they had the privilege of always every year organizing the entertainment for the King of Morocco, his various parties. And one day I invited them over to my house for Thanksgiving many years ago, and they asked, "Have you ever been to Morocco?" And I said, "No, I have never, but it's on my list." And they go, "Would you like to come with us?" I said, "I'm giving you dinner and everything, but don't make promises that you cannot live, or don't dangle a carrot and then think that I'm not going to take it." And anyway, long story short, I was invited and I attended. Um, I attended the New Year's Eve party of the King, and that was the most memorable. And I was honored and privileged because I got to do that because of two friends of mine, two gay friends of mine, and of color, both from the Caribbean, where I'm from, and I think that's probably one of my most memorable. And I always tell people I probably not go back to Morocco because I'd never be able to go back in that level of style. So that's mine.
Ruined. You've been ruined.
You
Yes.
have, you
Spoiled.
have,
Yeah.
kept. Jeff.
For
Okay,
me,
now.
it would have been, or it is, the most recent trip. I went to Mexico to Playa del Carmen because it went to a all inclusive resort, and that's not been an experience that I've had before. So just getting there, walking through the door, not having to worry about paying extra for meals or anything. Just hey, go down to the buffet, get something to eat, go back to the room. Go down to the little market, pick up a sandwich or a slice of pizza, and call it a day. Arriving, not having to whip out the card anymore was a great experience, and I look forward to my next resort trip. It doesn't have to be that way for me every time, but that definitely was for me the one of the best things I've ever experienced.
Awesome, awesome. I think for me, would probably have been the trip to Jamaica. I went to a conference in Jamaica, and it was an academic conference. And so I went solo, and I hate that I went solo, but it was cool because I got a chance to kind of be on my own schedule. And but there were a lot of things that I wanted to experience that I really would have loved to experience with somebody else. Like I actually there was the host campus, which was the University of the West Indies Mona campus in Kingston. They had like a fashion show one night, so that was really dope. I got to go to the Bob Marley Museum, which was phenomenal, and I would definitely go again. My hotel was right across from Emancipation Park, so I definitely was out there. And then it was crazy because I was nervous to try a lot of the local, even though I've been to New York. New York is like my second home, so I've eaten Jamaican food before, but I was really kind of nervous to try certain things. So I was going to the mainstream restaurants, that are over here, the McDonald's and the
Safe
KFC,
restaurants.
yes, and Wendy's. Yeah, I was going, all that stuff was right up the street from me. So I was going to those places. I did eat, a couple of other places, here and there to get some authentic feel, but I was just nervous about doing that because my stomach sometimes doesn't like stuff. It's like, nah, we're not going to do that. And I was
Mm.
already nervous about the bathroom in the hotel, so I was like, nah, we're not going to do that. So it was a really fun trip. The My flight was delayed coming back, so I missed my connecting flight, all of that. So I ended up having to reroute to Charlotte, and then you know it was a mess, but it was a lot of fun. So I think that's probably my favorite. But again, I want to go to Thailand. The night market is in Thailand, right? Phuket.
Yeah, pretty much all over Thailand, you have a night market pretty
See,
every night.
that's where I want to
I
go.
think that I think that the one that people talk about the most is the one in Chiang Mai in the north,
Hmm.
especially on a Sunday night. It's really nice and it comes alive, so it's good. But everywhere you go in Thailand, regardless of where it is, there's a night market that you can shop in.
Yeah.
But Jeff, you mentioned about all inclusives. I'm not a big fan, even if I'm in tourism, and I understand that, and I respect that everybody has their choices. But when you think about it, if you recount the number of times you left the hotel, it probably wasn't that much, right? Um,
Nope, it was not.
yeah,
But I mean, I'm a beach guy. Like, give
yeah,
me the beach, give me a couple of things. I don't like to go places where everything is down to the minute type of itinerary. I
okay.
want a
You just
list
want
of
to relax.
options.
Yeah,
Yeah, give me some options and I'll choose from those options. But I paid to be in this room. I want to chill in the room a little bit. I want to go see the local places. I don't want to go somewhere and do something that I can do at home. Like, I don't
okay.
want to go somewhere out of the country and be like, oh, let's go on jet skis. I can do that in Florida. I don't want to go somewhere and zip line. I can do that in Atlanta. So I want to do things that would be like a cenote. Like, if that's something that I don't have here. So yeah, I'll
Yeah,
go to Mexico and go to that. But
yeah,
yeah, anything that I can do somewhere else, I'm good at. But
yeah.
yeah, I didn't
I
really
think that.
leave the room that much, but that was okay. It rained for half the trip, so there wasn't really an option. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool.
Ooh, thank y'all for that. I just talked about traveling solo. What are some potential places that people can travel to solo?
Again, I think that it really all depends on research, right?
Hmm.
I think that anybody can go anywhere if they want to travel solo, if they're smart about what they're doing. I always tell people if you go to a country looking for trouble, you'll find it more than likely. But if you're smart and you have common sense, and you don't go looking for trouble, you can have a good old time as a solo traveler, regardless of where you go. But you have to be smart. And I know many people there that I follow on Instagram that travel solo, and travel all over the world, regardless. And this is one lesbian woman. Sometimes she and her partner travel to like they're in the Middle East right now, traveling as two lesbians, and they're having a whale old time. But usually, she travels on her own, and she travels all over the world. So I think that, you just have to be smart as a solo traveler, and that level of fear that comes along with it. I know it's not for everyone, but more and more we see that people are traveling alone. They're not waiting on their friends.
Right.
That's maybe something that we in the community like to do. We always need to go as a group. We always need that backup or that, but we kind of need to relinquish that, and become more free and become more adventurous, and just go, and again,
Yeah.
be smart, and
Yeah.
really, I think that when you do that, and you go on your own, it really forces you to immerse yourself in the local communities and local culture, and you get so much more out of your trip. But again, it's not for everyone. For me, it takes me a while. I remember I was in the Greek islands with a friend, and he got a call from work, and he had to leave, and I was on Mykonos, and I was questioning whether I should leave with him or stay. Anyway, finally, I decided to stay, and those were the 4 best days of my life because I got to do Mykonos by myself. And I rented a little, four-wheeler and went from beach to beach and really experienced. So that was good, and it was good to do it alone, but it's not for everyone. But common sense is definitely what you need as a solo traveler.
Yeah, it's like that meme. I don't know if you've seen it, where it's 10 people are invited to the initial trip, and then 6 months later, it's down to like six, and then a month before the trip, it's down to like four, and then the day of the trip is one person.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't mind solo traveling myself. Like you said, I like to be able to do things on my own time, but it's nice to go with other people.
yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't let that stop me from going somewhere that I want to go.
True, true, true.
Jeff, you have anything else you want to add or ask?
No, I think we've covered my questions this evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, if people are interested in specifically traveling to Thailand, how can they reach you, or how can they get more information about all that Thailand has to offer?
ThailandInsider.com is our official website. And definitely, it has everything that they would need to know in terms of planning a trip. I don't know if I don't know how I would share my email, but it's basically my name, Steve at tatny.com. And that would be directly into my inbox. And if anyone has any questions related to travel to Thailand, I'd be more than happy to answer. And if I don't know, try and find out for them or to point them in the right direction.
Awesome.
I can also give them, if people want to travel, I can also refer them to, like I said, travel advisors that have been to Thailand, that I feel are very credible. And I can definitely make recommendations to them so, they can plan their journeys.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll make sure we get that information in the description once this episode airs.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to say thank you, Steve, for coming on to the show with us tonight. I enjoyed having your subject matter expertise with us.
That's right.
All right. So, family, that is a wrap for this episode of Just Drawz. We hope you felt the love, laughed a little bit, and learned a little bit.
Now, remember that the conversation does not stop here. So we want you to follow us individually on social media. Let us know your thoughts. Share your stories. Or you can just say, hey.
Until then, just be bold, just be beautiful, and most importantly, just be.
We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Now be sure to like, share, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Spotify at Just Drawz. That's JUSTDRAWZ. Until next time,